Jono and Ben.
Hey.
Welcome to Between Two Beers.
No, thank you for having us here.
And thank you to the sponsors, Export Gold. I was wondering if it was literally there was 2 beers involved with this whole thing, and how many toilet breaks are also incorporated in.
As many as you need.
Yeah,
As many as you
unlimited
need.
toilet
Do
breaks.
you just edit the gaps between?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
Yeah,
seamlessly.
It
Yeah.
also could be between 2 beards. 'cause
Yeah,
you
we
guys
get
have
that a lot.
amazing beards. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like beard envy going on.
Yeah.
I can't grow the top moustache, but
Oh,
I always
think
get like
if
a
you-
wispy, gingery.
I think if you really tried, you'd get there. Just got
I
to
know.
persevere.
Yeah, no, it's every time I feel inferior like you, Ben.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I shouldn't be in. No, Movember's just not. It's not me.
It's not a thing for us, is it? No.
Yeah, beard's not for everyone.
Yeah.
So, not our traditional 3-way, but an exciting 4-way. Looking forward to getting into the...
I feel like we've messed things up being 4 of us,
Yeah.
the
No,
2 of
no,
us
no.
here, Because
You're
we
sti-
had that nice 3 shot in your
Well, you're
social
strategically between the 2 beers, I guess. So
yeah.
it works. It still works.
It'll work well. We don't want it to be fumbly. We want everyone to have a good time.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we're off to a good start.
media.
But, Jono, talk to me about the Sky Tower Marathon, which you completed on Friday. I learnt a new phrase in my research, talkability promotions.
Yes.
Does this fall into that
Is that
category?
from us or from someone else?
Yeah.
Well, it's
It's
these
sort of-
things that you do which people talk to you about, right? Remember?
Yeah.
Shameless publicity.
Shameless attention-seeking stunts. We make no bones about it. So we're out here. Ben
Because
was
everyone
like,
keeps saying, well, what charity are you doing it for?
we're
And
like, no. The
Not that
charity
we
is-
have a problem doing stuff for charity, we just didn't organise that in time.
No,
so.
yeah, because the thing, we would have done it for charity, but we're like, it's a week out. And, when you do those charity things,
Week out.
it was a week out when we started. Well, I didn't know about it, to be honest, but when he started organising it. And so when you get a charity on board, it takes a while at the back, before you start your fundraising to actually raise a bit of money and interest. Because you don't want to be like, hey, well done, kids in hospital, we got you $52.
Yeah.
So we wanted to earn a decent amount of money for a charity. So hence the reason why it just ended up being shameless talkability publicity.
How's the rig pulled up? Are you in bits still?
Oh, geez, Saturday was, because I did no training for it. I mean, the last time I ran I was trying to remember, it was sort of between 6 and 9 months ago. And Saturday I couldn't move. Like, I woke up about 3 o'clock on Saturday morning. I said to Ben, I felt paralysed. It took me like 10 minutes to be able to get out of bed. And it's still tender to sit down now. This is 3-4 days later. So would I advise doing a novelty marathon with no training? No.
But you did it. I was so surprised because I thought maybe he'd tail out after half marathon, or maybe you start walking, but you kind of keep going. I mean, you had a few stops, but you keep going.
Yeah, we kept saying Forrest Gumped it. He started.
No training.
Forrest Gump wasn't setting world records,
No.
but he was slow, consistent, and
Yeah.
he didn't stop.
I was talking to Shay about it. I was like, it's a marathon up there. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's a
lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But like, how did the idea come out? Like, were you nearly going to do it? Like, how did it come to be,
You
Jono?
put me up there for something a few weeks ago for another thing we did, another probably talkability thing.
Yeah.
And we were up there, and we sort of the producer and I, Ben, who does the radio show, you only work with Ben's for some reason.
Yep.
We were talking about how it was kind of like a track, and it kind of goes all the way around. And then we got talking to the guy from AJ Hackett, and we're like, has anyone kind of run around it? And Sarah Walker had done a BMX around it, but yeah, we're like, maybe we could do like a. And he was like, half marathon. We're like, no, we'll do a marathon because I didn't have to do it. And yeah, you did it.
Oh yeah, we spoke to people leading into it. There was one lady who had done 165 marathons. She's like, you're never going to do it. What are you doing?
Yeah, a lady
She's
who
like, I
ran
wouldn't
across
do it.
Africa, and she's like, yeah,
Lady, same lady who ran the length of New Zealand over New Year's.
just for a laugh, I think.
Emma, yeah, she was
was
like,
us,
you'll never do it. I wouldn't do it. And so,
They gave us no
hope, yeah.
no hope, yeah.
Hey, to be honest, halfway through it, I was like, we should have listened to the bloody experts. They were right.
I didn't tune in for the full amount. Did you run the same direction?
You went on for all 6
No,
hours
sorry,
and 15
I'm
minutes?
really
we
sorry.
lost you somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
geez.
checked up. Did you run the same direction the whole time?
I could have, but then that would have meant that we'd have to, at the halfway point, climb over where people jump off.
Right.
And so it was decided.
Like that sort of that weird steeplechase thing at the Olympics. They sort of have you got to fill one bit with water and down it, but no, so you had to go back the other way. So yeah.
So it's 120 metres round one way and then 120 back.
Is that how much? Is it really?
Yeah. It's big up there,
Yeah.
man.
'Cause I was thinking if you did the whole, like over the weekend, you'd be leaning in.
That was what the marathon runners were saying. They were saying, make sure you change direction, or else one
Yeah,
side of
right.
your body is going to be sore. But listen, to be honest, I'm one and done with marathons. and running.
As your coach, I'm taking you around all the big ones. Tokyo, New York, we're going to hit them up this year.
Maybe
No
that's
training.
the shtick. What have these guys done? No training. That's our thing.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting quirk of the jobs that you get to do something like that as your work, right? Like, and we're going to talk about some of the other incredible things, like such wild, random things you've done across your careers. But I sort of, upon the research, I found, for men of a similar age, we actually grew up with a lot of the same influences, perhaps shaping, perhaps hopefully why we get on so well together. Guys like Mark Ellis and Matthew Ridge, that duo, Sports Cafe, Havoc and Newsboy, Eating Media Lunch. Like, I've heard you guys talk about how big of an influence they were for you. That's who me and Shay grew up with. But do you think like Ridgie and Mark Ellis, like, is that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, they were probably some of the first people I remember growing up on TV that you're like, these guys are awesome. They're Kiwis. They're doing it, doing it. And not that we had, we'll probably get into it. We started separately as, but I guess working together it kind of is that same sort of vibe, that sort of fun, working together with a mate, and you give each other a lot of grief, so we can pick on each other without feeling too bad because we kind of know our areas to go to. Yeah, so Ridgie and Ellis, they're pretty iconic back in the day.
Yeah, well, probably the unathletic Ridgie and
you
Ellis.
just did a marathon.
Yeah,
it's true. Maybe not. Yeah, we don't have the sporting prowess.
Yeah, but no, I was the same sort of, sports cafes, particularly Eating Media Lunch and Hevo and Newsboy as well. Huge influences when we were growing up as young broadcasters. James Coleman. He was a big one for me at radio school, in Channel Z, and all that sort of era. I felt like it was a beautiful golden era of entertainment in New Zealand.
You've probably gone through comedy for a wee bit. There was Billy T. James, and McFarlane Gadsby, and Fred Dagg, but there was probably a little period where there wasn't. And it was great to when we grew up to have these sort of people on TV. You're like, that's awesome. You could be a New Zealander on TV or radio and, do some funny stuff.
Was it weird, like, meeting your heroes in a way? Like, as you guys were coming up, you say you looked up to Eating Media Lunch and Havoc and Newsboy, and then you're hanging out with Jeremy Wells and you're mates with him.
Yeah, You still feel like I have no place hanging out with Jeremy Wells.
I'm the same. Even though we see him every day and he's a true gentleman, I still feel like I shouldn't be talking to Jeremy Wells.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
You're too good for me.
Like the inside, doing cricket commentary with him on the ACC. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting next to Jeremy Wells doing that thing, and you never kind of lose that feeling of like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Well, I don't lose. Every day I think about that with you.
With me?
Oh my God, I'm sitting next to you, Boyce.
I'm the last person you should think that.
But you do have surreal moments of. I remember we got to meet Paul Henry. We used to work with Paul Henry, who obviously was an absolute, or still is a legend. He's not dead.
No,
We're just coming out.
Hopefully you're okay, Paul Henry.
Yeah. So I do take two.
But yeah, when you meet these people and sort of get to know them, because you've got the persona of, not to say you're not who you are as a person when you're on screen or on radio, but it's a hyped up version of yourself to a certain extent. And, to meet, people like Paul Henry and Jeremy and what they are like as people. Because Jeremy on screen, very deadpan, very straight, And to meet them as just themselves was quite interesting.
Still pretty deadpan and straight. Anyway.
Because, Jono, that started early for you, right? Have I got it right in thinking that you were a 10-year-old calling in My FM wanting to speak to Robbie Rakiti on a daily basis?
Damn right. Shit, you've deep.
Yeah, they
deep
do
dive.
They make you cry soon too.
Yeah, great.
Is that factually accurate?
Yeah, it was factually accurate. I shouldn't have called Robbie so much. No, I did. I was a bizarre little child who for some reason knew that I wanted to do radio, and so every morning poor Robbie, he was hosting the My Breakfast show at the time, My FM, with Stacey Daniels. It was Stacey Morrison now, Stacey Daniels, and I'd ring every morning. I'd be, hey Robbie, it's me, Johnny. He's like, hey Johnny, and he was truly lovely. Like, I don't think I would do the same if an annoying kid was phoning me every day on the radio. But yeah, he invited me in, showed me the studio, and I was just like, man, this is the industry. This is the coolest job ever. And so yeah, it was kind of like from that moment forward, I knew what I wanted to do. Yeah,
it's almost the Stephen from Dunedin of My FM for those people that got a throwback to radio sport.
I was probably very punishing for Robbie, and I want to apologise to him publicly.
It's his fault that you are doing a career in broadcasting
blame
now.
Robert Rakiti.
Yeah.
And Ben, your connection to early radio was commentating schoolboy rugby games?
Oh, I did a little bit of that in Christchurch, when I was studying at the broadcasting school. So I think I kind of got into wanting to do radio. My dad was a teacher, but he would work in the radio at the Wairapa in the weekends, so I kind of got to hang out with him was such a redundant thing he would often do. He'd drive around sports games and report, Red Star are up 14-12 over Marist, and then we'd get back in the car and go somewhere else. Now you just have someone who could text in or call, you know.
Yeah. Was he on the radio when he was giving the scores? Or was he
I
just...
think so. Maybe he wasn't. We're in a radio car. Maybe we stole the car. Yeah, so that, and I thought, again, we'd go up and hang out at the station, and I thought that was a pretty cool thing to do. And then, in Christchurch, I got to commentate some games, you know, and that was awesome. But annoyingly, because we didn't have a box, so we were just sitting in the back of the stand surrounded by people, and that could be punishing for the people around us. They'll be like, shut up with this kid. Stop going, oh, yeah, and I'd be like a lead commentator. Oh, Mittens, Meyerhoffler. Yeah, they'll be like, shut up. But, you know, it was fun. It was a good start.
We should get you. We've actually got audio of that commentary. It's wonderful.
We'd like to get our hands on that.
We would love to get our hands on that.
Like a wannabe lead commentator.
Graham Hughes, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Of that era.
Winfield Cup,
a
Graham
blade of
Hughes.
grass away from the touchline.
There it is. We don't need that archived audio. It's right here
And I'm
still.
like, why is he talking like this? He's like a 19-year-old kid.
But then you were doing it with quite an experienced commentator who was letting you run the whole thing.
No, that should never have happened. Yeah, but that was cool. I mean, getting those opportunities were awesome, and you get just excited about things today, as I think you do doing those things back there.
Yeah, you do. I mean, it's because it's when you're doing what you love, and you guys all know doing this. When you do it, it's not. We're all here now. It doesn't feel like work, you know. So when you're doing what you love, it's just kind of. Yeah, it's a pleasure and it's an honour to be able to do this job, really.
Yeah. And the radio side of things was there, but TV, like I said, growing up in the same era, VHSs were harder to edit on, right? Did you make little videos or movies at home?
Yeah, I was the punishing mate because I was in the Wairarapa, and we lived on a farm during my high school years, and I've no place on a farm. That's not really me. So, you know.
What did you do on the farm?
Well, they go, yeah, get this thing. And I was like, I'm not really into the motorbike, not really into the yeah. But Mum had a handycam. I'm not sure why her and my stepdad had a handycam. Anyway.
Yeah, didn't ask questions on that
No,
one.
geez, I was thinking about that now. So she had a handycam, and I would rope in all my mates to come out, and we'd make these terrible, terrible movies, you know, over holidays out there using the farm and using the river, and, you know. And it was terrible. They had plot holes all around, but it was fun. And you would edit the things on 2 VHSs, and if you screwed up an edit, you'd kind of you'd wipe a little bit. You're like, oh, we'll just have to live with it. And the credits would be filming like a Word document and scrolling down, and you'd have your ghetto blaster out with you, providing the soundtrack as you filmed. And so that was, that was fun. That was just, as you said before, it was just a fun thing to do. Nowadays, you'd be doing it on TikTok or YouTube or things like that, but...
Welcome to Old Men Reminiscing. Reminiscing
I was about to say,
Oh, screw you guys.
kids these days will never ever know the struggle of going to Video Easy.
Have I gone there?
I haven't gone there. It was just the time. But I was like, we had ghetto blasters. Nowadays, they got the TikTok and all sorts.
I'm not so... Yeah.
But no, it wasn't mission. I'd do the same with radio shows, and you'd tape songs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you'd tape the top 9 at 9 countdown or whatever, and you'd get filthy when the announcer would talk over the bloody...
Oh my God, it was so frustrating. I was just launching in as you two were kind of off on a tangent about the kids these days will never know the struggle of going to Video Easy, getting Eddie Murphy Delirious, putting sellotape over the top of it, getting 2 VHSs, then recording it so you had your own copy. Or those VHSs that were pink, and in that little saloon section of a Video Easy as well.
The saloon section, yes. I mean, no one ever looked confident going in or coming out of the saloon section.
Waiting for a cowboy to walk
Like
in there.
those kind of Cobb and Co doors that sort of...
And they always put some CRC on these guys.
Yeah, we got another one.
But then also when you'd get your video from Video Easy and you'd play it and no one had bloody rewound the tape.
Yeah, frustrating.
I know.
Or when the head was dirty on the on your own VHS at home and you had to get that fluid out that for some reason cleaned things. It's really old man podcast, guys.
There's going to be a certain connection to some members of the audience who are going to feel really strongly about
Other
this.
people were like, wow, they really got deep.
The TikTok generation have really clocked out now.
Mate, we lost them in the first 15 seconds, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring them back. So I'm going to move forward a little bit to Ben. I think you were in Christchurch Radio School at this point, and you started to make your name as a copywriter. Novus Windscreen.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the favourite things we found on the research, one of the most famous jingles in New Zealand radio. It's just been around forever. And you wrote it.
Yeah, yes. I'm still not sure why they keep using it, but
It's still on, right?
I think so, yeah. It seems
They've jazzed it up a bit, haven't they?
every now and again it goes away, and every now and again it comes back, and I'll be like, Novus, that's my voice at the end of it, But it was cool. I mean, it was one of those things you never expected it to last as long. It was our first job in radio writing ads, and that was one that has stuck around. So that was pretty cool. Everyone's like, did you get extra windscreens? No, it wasn't your job to get products. You just were writing ads. And
Did you get extra windscreens? Oh man, you must have got a lot of windscreens, bro.
I've actually still got them all. There's
you want
a
a windscreen? I
whole
can
bunch
hook
of
you
them.
up with a windscreen.
30 windscreens.
That's really nice.
Yeah, but I don't know why people ask me that. Maybe it's my dumb friends.
I'm keen to drill down a little bit into it. Like, when did you know you had gold? Like, how
When the windscreen started arriving.
was it as soon as you
Oh,
get
mate,
the jingle? You thought, shit, I think I've got something here.
It was actually another guy in the writing department who, Stephen Hunter, who ended up, he's an actor, and he, I think he was in one of the Hobbits in one of the Hobbit movies, yeah. So, and we were like trying to come up with this idea for this thing, and he was like, show us your crack as a sort of thing, and as a sort of throwaway comment, and we're like, hey, that's great. Let's put it on. And I think originally it played on Radio Hodaki only, and then they liked it so much that they put it across everything else. So
There's some real longevity in that, right? Because that's
I know.
I know there's not much from that era that stacks up still in 2022, but that one does.
Yeah, still I think just. It's hard to know, but yeah. So a small claim to fame, I guess, was part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, a big claim to fame.
radio jingles are kind of a thing from days gone by, right?
Yeah.
Like in my previous life as a marketing guy in Hamilton, we would sing Matter Matter Post and Rails. This is very niche content for the Waikato, by the way.
Okay.
Matter Matter Post and Rails, Marshall Transmission, all sorts of.
Transmission magicians.
See, there you go.
What was the one where they do beds and beds and beds?
Oh, Watamata Backyard.
Watamata back here, beds and beds and beds, and they
It used to
couldn't-
be beds and water beds, but then I think they stopped selling water
Water
beds.
beds.
So
Water
they
beds
went
have
with
got- yeah.
beds and beds or something to fill the syllables. Yeah.
You know.
You see what they did there?
Not many water beds nowadays, are there?
Yeah.
Nah, that's a dying art form, the waterbed.
Yeah. We'll move into Pulp Sport chat because I know Shay. I kind of caught the end of it, but I know Shay was a big fan. If I got it right, that you sort of put together a pilot and took
Yeah.
it to Sky, and they were keen on it, and they offered you some money, and you realised it wasn't actually that much money.
Yeah, well, there's four of us, and we sort of went in. Yeah, exactly that. We went into Sky, we made this pilot, and we managed to rope in a few people to be on this pilot who helped us out for nothing. We made this thing, and I remember sitting down. It was one of those conversations. The head of Sky Sport at the time was like, "We like it. Can you make it? And you can get it started. It can be on air in 4 weeks." And we're like, yeah. We looked around. We're like, yeah, sure, why not? We have 6 episodes. You're like, yeah. And he's like, we'll pay you 20 grand. And we're like, oh my God, 20 grand. This is awesome. Yeah.
In
And so
those days,
we
that
were
was a lot of money.
stoked. Yeah. And then we went out there. We were all like, try not to be, try and play it cool in the thing, but we're
that's 20
stoked.
grand's good.
Yeah, that's 20 grand. Great. And then we were like, well, we need to buy a camera because we didn't own a camera, and the camera was 10 grand that we bought. So there was our budget slashed in half for the first series that we made. So yeah, and I don't think we slept for the 4 weeks leading into it, and the 6 weeks afterwards. Pretty much was 10 weeks of a crash course in TV. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, you make a lot of mistakes and a lot of things along the way, but it was a fun little thing to make each week and get it to play on Sky. So it was very thankful that Sky played it.
Can I just say how disorganised was Sky at the time, not knowing what they had on their schedule?
4 weeks straight. Yeah, I know.
They were running a tight line.
yeah. We thought there was plenty of time. It wasn't. Yeah.
But it was a sports show for people not necessarily into sport,
Yeah.
right? Like, how much thinking actually went into what you were trying to create versus were you just trying to go out there and film entertaining shit?
Yeah, probably the latter, really. But it was probably because New Zealand at that time, apart from like Sports Cafe, was pretty serious about
Because
sport.
what time are we talking? I was a big fan, but I've
It
I've
would have
lost
been
my...
oh, geez, I always struggle with the 2000s.
2000s.
Yeah, 2000s. It would have been 2000s. Yeah, and yeah, New Zealand obviously can take sport pretty seriously, and they should, But this was just kind of giving it a sort of lighter side of it and doing things that, yeah, as I say, I sort of look back now and you're like, some of the stuff you're like, oh God, that's embarrassing. We shouldn't, But hopefully you learn from those things. You're not doing those things now. A lot of stuff that as time moves on. But it was a cool start in TV. To try and get your name out there, I guess.
Yeah, not being disrespectful to the show, but it probably would have been a YouTube sort of creation
absolutely.
these days, right?
Yeah.
It just
It had no
happened
place
at
on
that
TV.
time.
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
didn't exist or
Yeah.
was in its
Exactly.
infancy.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of that jackass sort of style.
Yeah.
Kind of guerrilla TV is probably
No, you're
not
right.
the right term.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That is the right term.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
It was a good team,
Good team. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking back on some of the clips tonight, actually, and some of the guerrilla marketing was genius. Like the Tui sneaks.
Oh,
and
yeah,
things
yeah,
like
yeah.
what a great way to push a product where you make it the central focus.
Integration at its
of the
finest.
game.
I don't know if
Like,
you'd see that here as he drinks.
If anything could have been better was if it was an export. That's the way. That's what.
Yeah,
what
and
I
roping
think.
in your mates to sort of do that and try and one of the biggest battles for that was, again, back in the day, the cameras were quite big, so you couldn't just, now you just film it on the phone. But trying to sneak a camera in to film something inside was half the battle as well. So
Where was the cow?
the cow was in Hamilton.
It wasn't.
Yeah,
was
it was Hamilton. Yeah,
in the new stadium. Eh?
Yeah. So we put a
amazing.
little keg inside a fiberglass cow that didn't they at first they didn't let it in, not because they thought it was beer inside, but just because they thought it was like a fire risk to have it in the aisles. You can't bring up a big life-size fiberglass cow. So yeah, and then I think they felt sorry for these guys that were hanging outside. Like, all right, come on in. Then we got one shot of them quickly pouring a beer and then took it away. So and now the cow lives in my backyard. So
Really?
It's
Yeah.
very mossy and mouldy
Yeah.
now, isn't it,
Yeah.
that cow? Have you water blasted it?
No, I need to. I keep saying I'm going to paint
Yeah.
it, but I never
So
get
I'm
around
going
to
to give
it.
it a zhuzh up,
Yeah.
the old fiberglass cow. But that was genius integration, wasn't it, back in the
Yeah.
day? It was good. And you had Hell Pizza too,
Yeah,
didn't you?
yeah. So a
What'd
couple
you do
of
with them?
we did like a coin toss where one of us would have pizza and the other one would have to do something.
That was the other one I
Yeah.
watched. It was
Yeah.
before an All Blacks game, wearing the banner saying Richie McCaw's a cheat,
Oh
dressed up
yeah,
as
yeah.
the
Will did that.
Aussie.
Yeah. And so, and people in Christchurch wasn't Christchurch, and people would like and Richie McCaw was such an icon, and it is such an icon of Christchurch. Even when you'd go, it's for TV, we don't actually mean it. People would go, I don't care, mate. You can't do that to Richie, which is fair enough.
Yeah. But kind of cut it, not to undersell it, like kind of cutting edge at the time. Like no one else was doing that sort of thing, right? And it grew a cult following.
Yeah,
And it still
yeah.
has it. I think it's still quite strong today, right? Pulp Sport. You still get people talking about Pulp
Yeah,
Sport.
now
so
and
many years
again,
later.
you sort of do as you go through. So it was cool. It was, like as I say, I look back and some of the stuff as time moves on, you're like, oh god,
But it was encapsulated in that moment.
Yeah,
Like, the difference is we've got the ability to go back and look at it now.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff at the time was par for the course.
yeah.
No, you're right. And that's what I always say. You gotta remember what was entertainment at the particular time. Yeah, things change, but the important thing is that you've changed
Yeah.
what you do as well, and you're not sort of oblivious and blindly going on doing what you were doing 15, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how quickly it's changed. We'll get into Jono and Ben later, but stuff that you were doing in season 1, you probably couldn't have done in season
Absolutely,
6.
bro.
Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's so you're thinking before then. Before we get onto your stuff, Jono, and I want to move a little bit ahead. Wanna Ben?
Yeah.
There's one skit which we were watching today. It was the Bryce Casey one, right? The pilot.
Oh, the pilot.
Man, that caught fire. I was like watching, John Key's
John Key
hammering
gets
you on
involved?
the news. You're doing this sort of apology tour, but you kind of got the little sort of glint in your eye, like, yeah, it's all it's much ado about nothing. But was
Well-
that kind of a stressful time for you?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's sorry. It's one of those things I look back on and go, oh, yeah, totally. Feel a lot of responsibility for that looking back. I guess because obviously going into it, yeah, it was a stupid idea, and I wear it. I shouldn't have put everyone in that position. But I guess, yeah, stupidly didn't think it could ever go to a place where the Prime Minister's talking about it. You end up going to jail. You go through a court case, and yeah, now I sort of go, yeah, I think it was probably 24 hours after doing it where it all just sort of hit home, and I was like, oh my god, I've just screwed up badly here. And I'm being in tears at home in my kitchen going, shit, this is bad. It's getting hounded by reporters coming to the house, and my wife was pregnant at the time, and it's all, I don't want people to feel sorry for me because that was my fault. I did it. But I just felt such a guilt and responsibility that, I put my wife through this. She was pregnant, was losing jobs, and rightly so, and we were paying for this court case and lawyers and, and all these people that trusted me to come on and do a skit and to be the crew, and I'm like, man, they're going through a court case. And that was a huge, like Jono knows now, I'm probably
shaped you.
I'm over cautious now compared to I would, like back in the sort of days you're talking about before. I definitely now go, oh shit, what is the worst case scenario that could happen in this? Because I want that to be a big learning thing. That the one good thing to come out of it for me, hopefully, is the fact that I've learned from that, and I'd never want to do that. We'll never want to go through that again, because that was pretty sobering, I guess,
I
for
know
me.
that when you bring that stuff up, that's where it's come from.
Yeah,
It's kind of like if you didn't learn from that experience, then
yeah.
that would be the mistake.
Yeah, but to go to that place, and I mean, as I say, I should have thought that it could have gone there, and I didn't, and that was dumb. And and to go there and have the Prime Minister talking about it, and be on the news, and be just like in this media storm, I was like, oh my god, this is, wow, So
You were like, the worst bit was a shitty sketch, wasn't it?
oh, yeah, we never went and played it anyway. It wasn't
wouldn't
great.
have played it anyway.
Not that we could play it because through the court, but
How-
yeah. So yeah.
How quickly after that do you then try and push the envelope again in terms of skits and bits and pieces? Did you like let it lay for months?
Probably, yeah. And you know, because we just started doing Jono and Ben probably the year or so afterwards. I was probably a lot more well, I definitely was a lot more cautious than I ever had been before, because you know what sort of where things can go if you don't think things through. So it's definitely an expensive and learning curve. Yeah, but not one I have to kind of just take on the chin and go, I screwed up pretty bad, and hopefully I'll learn from that and not do that again.
And you were young too. Like I think about when you get bad feedback on an episode or someone posts a bad comment, that can affect you.
Which
like
very rarely happens. Very rarely happens.
But to have that whole swarm of something you thought was a good idea, was a bit of fun, and to have it turn like that basically overnight, like that, I can understand how that would have absolutely rocked your world.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah. So
it's a bit
heavy because Bryce, who dressed up as the pilot, he's a dear friend of mine, and I remember buying the paper, and he was on the full front page of the paper. And it said, "Do you know this man?" I was like, "Yes, I do."
yeah.
And I mean, when you saw that,
that was when you're like, "Oh my god, this has got to just a whole nother, just the level you're in the paper." Sorry. In the paper you got the Prime Minister talking about. It's just like
It was kind of the perfect storm for it to blow up, because the Rugby World Cup was on at the time, wasn't it? And so they were a bit tense about airport security and things.
That's right. And it's obviously was bad, but was there a side of it, the sort of no publicity is bad publicity? Like, did it build your profile? Did it elevate the show in any way?
No, I don't think that particular show. I don't know. It was probably one time that I went, maybe that good publicity thing is not
true.
actually. I would have given anything to not have any publicity at that stage. When you're in the middle of a storm of media and you got the phone ringing or people coming to your house, and as I say, it was all warranted, deserved all that, but you're like, just go away, you just want, but you have to sort of, try and ride it out.
And then you're saying they find new angles on things, on story, and they'll phone, like, here's his teacher from
my mum.
Stanley.
Yeah. Which is, what they do, and that's their job, and, you understand that, but yeah.
He was a lovely boy at school. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on so we can pull apart the worst moments of your career. We'll move on. We'll move on to Jono now.
Certainly potential jail time's a step up from stadium trespass notices, eh?
Well, yeah.
It's a real elevation.
Yeah, exactly. So,
what was it like in prison?
Well, we were there in the cells for a little bit, yeah.
Great question. Actually, do you want to join us next week on the other?
Definitely not a place I want to go back to. That's for sure.
Was there other people in there with you?
There was in the first, sort of talking about all. You're in there for hours, so I guess everyone's talking about what
they've done, and then you're like, we just filmed a bad sketch.
So I was like, oh
man,
shit.
they're taking that seriously.
But
bad sketch, fella. It's a bad sketch.
Another bad sketch.
What would have been better is if Bryce was actually in there still in the pilot uniform, and you're just sitting there going, was he? Yeah, he was. Just on that, he definitely had a short sleeve button up with the mustache and the pilot hat, because otherwise he would never have got past.
He didn't have, It was probably, I don't think he had the mustache.
He didn't get past security.
No, he didn't.
So the security worked.
Yeah. But we didn't. Yeah. But obviously they caused alarms because what was going on there.
Yes. Right, Jono, let's move into your radio side. I want to connect the dots between your time at My FM and the Rock.
We rephrase that, time harassing My FM.
That's really nice.
Because you were essentially a lifer at the Rock, right? You started sort of getting coffees for the DJs and elevated yourself to the sort of drive time host.
Yeah.
But in those early days, like, how did you get in the door? Was it badgering people, knocking on doors again?
It was, like I did a grueling 6-month course in radio in Wellington. So I left school early, actually, just again, because I just knew what I wanted to do. So Mum was like, we're wasting money here at St. Kentigern's Presbyterian School for Boys. And so went to Wellington, did that for 6 months when I was about, must have been sort of 17 going on 18. Came back to Auckland and just went to MediaWorks, which owns The Rock at the time. They own Solid Gold and a couple of other stations as well, The Edge. And I was just, again, a pest and kind of just got in there, cooking sausages and, doing promo duties. And, I just wouldn't leave. I pretty much just moved into that building at the top of College Hill there for, about 5 years. I was living my dream, you know, even though I was cooking. And geez, I must have given people some food poisoning with those undercooked sausages.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was kind of working in the initial stages, you know, doing promos for. I put on a solid gold t-shirt, which is this bright gold t-shirt that used to play like 60s rock and roll, and I cooked sausages, and geez, I felt cool, but I probably didn't look cool. Just got my foot in that way. And you know, if anyone's listening who wants to get into an industry like media, it's just if you're there and you're hanging around and no one's there to do a job, they're going to look around the building to see who can do it, you know. And so that was kind of my theory, that if I'm always there, I can always do the jobs that people can't do. And so yeah, kind of just hung out there and got my foot in the door at the Rock. Nick and Rog were there at the time, and were doing the breakfast show at the time, and they were just awesome, lovely. The whole team were awesome, and kind of took me under their wing, and just ended up doing stupid little stunts for them in the morning. And I've still got a tattoo on my bottom and a love heart of Nick and Rog, and you know the show doesn't even exist now. That's how much I love my time there. But yeah, then eventually just got on to doing mid dawns there, and it's another back in the day reference, but back in the day we did them live. So yeah, my day would sort of start at 11 o'clock at night. Going, Green Man was the night announcer at the time, and I just looked up to him so much, and hung out with him for an hour during his night show, and then I'd do my mid dawns, and then Nick and Rog would sort of get in at 6, and I'd help out with them, get coffees and things, and sort of sleep in my car in the garage.
Yeah, that's not an exaggeration, is it?
No. I was if you walk past, you'd be like, geez, things aren't going well at home with this guy. But then, I actually met my wife through
in that car.
In that car. She was also sleeping in that car. Maybe it wasn't my car. But yeah, she was managing like this department that they used to have where they'd send out all the radio station merch and all this weird stuff. And so once I'd sort of finished at 6, breakfast show on the Rock, I'd go down there and send out packages. And mainly they were calendars of old Radio Pacific talkback hosts, and I'd send those out to elderly ladies and take their credit card details. And Jen, my wife, she's like, you were the worst employee ever. Like, people would phone up and be like, where's my calendar? I was like, I don't know, mate. And just hang out. It was shocking. But that was kind of my intro to radio.
During those early days that sort of do stuff to Jono Fridays and things, and the hazing and the tattoos, does that stand the test of time? Like, is that stuff that would be okay now? Like, was it done in sort of good faith?
I always joke, like nowadays when we do radio stunts, it's like, oh, you got to sit in a comfortable chair and watch movies non-stop. That's kind of the length of stunts you can do now.
I mean, a marathon, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, but again, it was probably all very safe, wasn't it, compared to what we did? Like, I was going through skateboards on flames, but there were no health and safety.
Yeah.
Like, it was the Wild West back then. But again, it's one of those things. It was the time.
Yeah.
And shit, I loved it. It was, yeah.
People still talk about do stuff to Jono quite a lot.
Do. And I have no stunt experience. I was the world's most inexperienced stuntman ever. But
You're just a young guy on station, really, weren't you?
Yeah, but I'll always be so grateful for them giving me the opportunity to do that, because that was such a platform. And I actually remember Jana Ranguni, who was the boss of the group of stations at the time. She sort of sat me down. She's like, right, Nick and Rog and me, we've had a brainstorm with our consultant from Australia, and we've come up with a thing, we're going to make you a star. And I was like, what, do I get my own show? She's like, nah, you're going to be jumping through flames, mate. And I was just kind of like, keen as. I remember we're down in the Fovo Strait, and they were like, okay, we're going to put you on a rubber ring on the back of a boat, and we're going to tow you across to Stewart Island.
Holy hell.
Now, I didn't know these were like the most
shark-infested
shark-infested waters in the land. And there's some salty old sea dog there he's got a beautiful big beard, and he's towing me halfway out on the boat of this like kids rubber ring and these waves. And I remember the boat like disappearing under the waves. And he kind of turned around and was like, mate, she's too rough out here, mate. We're not taking you any further. And I was like, there's no cameras.
Yeah, no one filmed that. You could have faked the whole thing.
There's no website. I was like, why?
Did that for radio.
We had to do this. Like, no one sees this. We're still out here in shark-infested water. Or then probably a scratchy cell phone. Oh, yeah, I'm out here, mate. Like, we could have just done that in the bathtub.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
This is precursor to Air Jaws, probably. They are testing those theories.
That you were kind of the whipping boy, but among punters of your own age, your friends, were you kind of a celebrity? Like, were you kind of like a big man? Because that Nick and Rog show was super popular. Like everyone listened to that at our school.
It
Like,
was, yeah. No, it was, yeah. No, it was an awesome radio show at the time. Roger and Nick, they had some wonderful chemistry, and it was kind of that the early 20s, late teens, early 20s was huge for that program, and yeah, a lot of my mates did. But again, they had grown up with me being this weird radio nerd, so they probably weren't. It wasn't like I just all of a sudden got this job. They're like, yeah, he worked at some community station. He fucking, sort of stalked Robert Rakiti for a while. So I guess they weren't too impressed. But yeah.
Was it always going to be radio? Like, why were you a weird radio dude? Were there any other career paths which?
No. I wanted to be a professional tennis player.
You didn't have the ability.
I didn't have the ability. Mum thought I was Andre Agassi, and sadly, Annie, I wasn't. She would send me into tournaments at school holidays.
Were you okay though with a racket? You could handle
Mate,
yourself?
I'd get knocked out in the first round. Then I'd go to the plate round. Then they had a very special round for those that were knocked out.
Bowl.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I was that same guy in Topol. I was like the child prodigy. I was hopeless.
Yeah. And then I just ate toasted sandwiches for the rest of the 2 weeks of the holidays.
I just used to umpire.
Can you umpire for you?
The radio stuff started to merge then into the TV stuff.
Yeah.
And Jono's new show won the Qantas Award in 2008.
You saying that right?
Best entertainment program.
You're saying you spelled it wrong on the paper.
Yeah, but it's,
I
you
just-
pronounced that correctly.
In my notes,
Maybe I also won that award as well.
Qantas.
Did someone understand what you could offer, and you're doing well on radio, and decide that I'm going to put you in front of the camera too?
Well, because it was actually a man, Andrew Schusterman, he came back from MTV in the UK, Kiwi guy, and he was program director of Channel Z at the time, which is obviously all in the same group of stations at MediaWorks in that era. And he started C4, which was the music television station that was under TV3 umbrella. And yeah, it sort of started out, I was like, oh man, this is a great opportunity. I think I was sort of, 22, 23 at the time. And started out hosting, the way they'd structured the station was sort of hour-long themed shows. Like, DJ Severe did a hip-hop show, and there was an alternative show with this girl called Camilla, and Clark Gayford was obviously on there with Jackie Brown.
What happened to him?
What's he ever done?
I haven't heard from that guy lately.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's almost
Promising
like
broadcasting career. I don't know. Where he
maybe
ended up.
fizzled out. Who knows? But yeah, and so then I was hosting sort of the rock show, being on the rock. So
What's the original co-host, that amp.
yeah, it was called Amped. So we had an amplifier there.
Before me, there was an amp.
Should I love that amp?
I could never live up to that
Never
amp.
gave me any lip. But yeah, so that sort of started out, C4 ran like that, I think, for, 1 or 2 years. And then eventually they kind of dipped their toes into the entertainment space, and they bought shows like Jackass and Wild Boys and all that sort of thing back in the day. And they were like, we'd really like to sort of form a local hour-long, topical comedy satirical show. And I was dead keen. And it was a really fun show to make. It was probably the same as Ben. Like, there's stuff that you're like, fuck, we just had some shocking stuff on there, but you had to fill an hour of television, so you put it on. And it was such a small team. Josh Thompson, he's an actor. He was kind of like a director, editor. Like, Josh, he wouldn't sleep for 24 hours editing things. And we had Charlotte Hobson, who's also a wonderful friend of ours and a great producer still. It was a very tiny team, and we sort of pulled together an hour of, I don't know what it was, a week, but it was fun to make. And
It's cool because you kind of learn with a small team too. You
do.
do everything, and you
yeah.
get to see how it's all made, or you kind of get involved in the edit or whatever. So that's kind of cool. You get a sort of handle on how
Yeah.
everything comes together.
And you just look back on those years, I'm sure you do too, so fondly, that it's, like you say, you're all pitching in, and just to be given the opportunity, really. And I think it was probably out of desperation that C4 just needed to fill airtime, that they kept it on. But yeah, so it was I think that year, and I don't know what, someone must have had goat photos on the judges of the Qantas Media Awards, because we're up against Dancing with the Stars.
Right, and you
Yeah,
won.
and it won.
Oh wow.
I don't know. It wasn't Jason Gunn's year, clearly, back then.
Yeah. So you're
Rodney Hyde era, I think.
Yeah, it was wonderful. He was dropping his dance partner, wasn't
you're cutting similar paths. Are you guys mates? Before you link up with the Jono, what are you guys called again?
Jono and Ben.
Jono and Ben show.
It's all right. We haven't heard of ourselves either. That's fine.
he? Mike and Kevin.
Are you friends? Like, are you aware of what each other are doing? Are you sharing ideas and collaborating on things?
Well, we worked together at The Rock sort of for a little bit.
Yes.
And I was writing some ads as well over at MediaWorks, and then we worked together at The Rock. I was doing the night show
Night
for
show,
a wee
yeah.
bit while he was doing the drive show. Yeah, so we became mates then, and sort of, I mean, and we both, I think I ended up being on your show a couple of times. You've come on mine.
I was going to say, did you collaborate on the shows as well?
and not necessarily sitting down and coming up with ideas, but we'd kind of always,
Yeah, we would. And I think it was at the time you had Ben, and we were doing the Jono, whatever it was at the time.
Where's your name in the title?
There's definitely have a name in the title.
As long
I
as it's
won't
got my
say.
name in the title.
Yeah,
there.
I don't care.
I'll do it. And then we had a whole, the TV3 sort of came together and went, hey, why don't you, we're thinking about putting putting you guys together, building a slightly bigger, better team.
Yeah, was there one meeting that you remember when that got sort of put in front of you?
I tell you what, it was with Andrew Schusterman and Jed Marnie.
Kelly Martin.
And Kelly Martin was here
Yeah.
too, and Rachel Jean, and they said, how about we do this? But we were kind of both, when they first talked about it, both a little bit down the road with our own projects
I
at
think
the
we
time.
that was the year before, and then
And we were like, listen, we're a bit too busy, so it was delayed by a year, and then
when we finished the series of our last shows, we sort of, I think we went out for a coffee. We're like, hey, we'd both been thinking about going, hey, we should do this. We should try and, come together.
Yeah.
I think TV3 wanted to take 2 average shows and make a slightly less average show.
just save on costs, probably.
yeah.
But so we...
So it was a cool opportunity.
It was a really cool opportunity, and we teamed up with a wonderful lady too, Bronwyn Backer, who was our producer at the time, and Rachel Jean was the executive, network executive, and just to form this team. And I remember Rachel Jean going, "Sit down, watch all the fucking shows that you like, all the US talk shows, all the Australian talk shows, and pick things that you really like and try and combine them into a show."
And sort of look at stuff we'd done in the past and go, oh, that was cool how Jono's shows had this or whatever, So we took sort of elements and kind of made this, this new show. And things changed over the years, but it was kind of the essence of what we're trying to do.
I remember because we did our first episode, and for some reason I was like, I'll be back shortly, and I shaved my head down to a 0. I don't know why, but I came back looking like a light bulb.
Oh, okay.
Everyone was like, oh, okay, he's gone. Well, he's gone. And then you put makeup on it. I looked like a cast member of the Coneheads.
You did actually. It was a great.
It was strange, but I remember after that first episode, because we just filmed it was literally down in the garage of TV3.
It was.
And
literally.
again, it had that sort of early day charm of, everyone's pitch. It was probably a bit flashier than what either of us had done before.
Yeah, but it was
But it still had that charm of like you're battling away and there's 30 people in the audience and we've plied them up on alcohol and it was I remember that first episode. Joseph Moore, who he's a comedian, he was one of the writers on the show, and afterwards he's like, people are gonna love this. After the filming of the first episode, I was like, oh man, that's been coming from him. And
it was cool because New Zealand probably hadn't done too many sort of like along the lines of that sort of Letterman, Jimmy Fallon type show. And not that we're anything exactly like that, but I guess we took sort of, like a little bit of inspiration by that.
Yeah.
And making a version of that in a New Zealand way. And it was.
How does it work with guys like Joseph Moore? Is that your responsibility to hire the people you think are funny to write for you, or does someone else do that?
Well, Joey was working with me on the show that we were doing, so it was kind of a blending of the team.
Guy
Ben
was doing
had.
some stuff
Guy
on-
Williams was working with us as well. Yeah.
It was like the stepchild that you brought into the relationship.
Big, loud, obnoxious stepchild.
I was never his real father.
I never listened to you. You're not my real dad. But yeah, the team was a blending of both the team that was running Wannabe and the Jono project and
some new people as well. And
new people as
it
well.
was cool.
Yeah.
It was
It
cool.
was really cool, and we're just in this church that was kind of off the side of TV3.
It was an old church,
I
yeah.
don't know if it was an old church, but they rented it out, and it leaked, and there were rats, and it was just filthy. But we were stuck down in like this cupboard, this mouldy sort of layer underneath, just surrounded by props, and no one could really move. But it was a really cool time.
I want to kind of ride this wave because 7 seasons is just so impressive and incredible. You should be really proud of that. But like at the end of season 1, it's been pretty raw and loose and amateurish. Did you get renewal straight away at the end, and did you think, okay, season 2 is going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit better, or how did that develop?
Yeah, well, you apply the way the New Zealand on-air funding worked at the time. I don't know how it works now, but you sort of applied in October.
Yeah.
You found out about October if you were going to be.
So you never really knew until the end of the series, and as well whether the network were going to go back in again. So you kind of
because they've got to be on board, and then New Zealand Air got to be on board too.
And then if you get sponsorship and stuff, so you kind of just hope that it
On
was
a
all
treadmill,
going well
sort of,
towards
Because
by the end you're like,
Because what's the delay between filming, screening, and then that renewal funding process?
For back then, we were pretty much filming week to week.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. It was a
Some we ended up doing it live for a couple of series as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd to film the sketches during the week. You might have banked a few things in a few weeks
in
leading up to it.
pre-production, yeah.
But by week 3, you'd
You run
use
out
all
of that.
those. And
Yeah. But it's
it was fun. I mean, we were doing
Yeah.
radio at the time because as well, and it
It
was
was busy.
frantic, but it was awesome. You
Yeah.
know, like you look back and you go, wow, we did some, again some cool things, some things that weren't as good as others, but some. And you're like watching small clips on YouTube of that now of Jono and Ben. You're like, oh my god, that's right. We did this battle. We went to this thing. Or you know?
What were the rules for TV3 at 10 o'clock at night? Like, were there swear words you could say and swear words you couldn't say?
It was loose. No, it was the Wild West. I don't know. But then I look back at it and like we were just unnecessarily swear.
Yeah.
We were like, how the fuck are you going, motherfuckers? And we're like, well, don't, you look back on your younger self and you're like, just stop.
Just
Yeah.
chill out.
Just stop. Yeah, fucking good kid, I
I don't think we actually,
didn't need to be
I mean,
there.
they'd obviously have a censor would watch it the next.
Yeah.
When we're live, obviously didn't, but we kind of by then I
Yeah.
think we'd learn to.
But you're like, we look like those guys just trying to show off swearing, but
Like Wayne's World.
yeah, it was. But
But
we
they
were
didn't
we were after 7 days, which was on at 9:30 at the time, and again, awesome show, still is an awesome show.
Yeah.
But we were really riding off their ratings success, and it kind of became, for that little era of TV3, just this Friday night comedy thing that people would watch.
Graham
and it-
Norton, then
Yeah.
7 days, and then us. And,
Yeah, it was. It was in my repertoire of
Yeah,
of
it was
TV3.
cool being part of that.
And then, so what? A couple of years. How many years was it before you got bumped into prime time?
About 3.
yeah, we got Friday night 7:30, and then eventually we went Thursday night 7:30.
Yeah.
So
And it kind of, I'm not saying it was the beginning of the end of it all, because we still made some stuff.
yeah,
really
Friday
proud
night
of.
was going really well.
Yeah, it was. It was Friday night was going well, but I think the transition to 7:30 from 10 o'clock, it was a hard one to make because they were like, oh, still do what you're doing at 10, but do it at 7:30. And you're like, well,
we can't
we
do
can't
that.
go, hey, motherfucker!
Yeah.
After Campbell Live.
Yeah.
So I think that you had an idea of what it should be. I had an idea of what it should be. Bronny had an idea of what it should be, and it was kind of we never really got into a flow of
Yeah.
what.
And
we
I-
probably were overthinking it there, whereas at the
Yeah.
start you probably weren't.
You weren't thinking it. And
Yeah.
that was probably why it worked. Because
Yeah.
you weren't putting too much thought into it. It's when you
Yeah.
start overthinking things and analysing ratings, and that's when you really start to fall down a rabbit hole, isn't it?
And I guess that Friday night 10 o'clock crew, when you get shifted to 7, are expecting that fucking fuck.
yeah.
The
And then it
audience,
gets
yeah.
to 7:30. These guys are sold
lost
out.
it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Did you comment on Facebook?
I feel like we had a few
And
of
that's
those.
when you lost me.
Oh, it's good to know. Well, good. Yeah, it's always good. We got around a few now. Just
But
go.
it was that thing of like we're never going to say no to going to 7:30.
No,
Yeah,
of course
for,
not.
for
You
a
get
career move, you're always going to do it.
And our show more, like
Yeah.
funding and
Yeah.
like bringing sponsors and advertising and stuff. So yeah, and I think we found a new audience there of sort of like people would sit at home with their kids
well,
and
100% you did.
yeah, yeah. But I probably lost a few of those 10 o'clock.
Oh,
Yeah. But then
So-
sometimes the adults would go, oh, me and the kids stay up to 10 o'clock and watch you. And it's like, that's some shocking parenting. Shocking parenting. But like I say, we did some really good stuff at 7:30 and stuff that you're really proud of too. But I just think it kind of lost its whole identity of what it was quite focused at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And it was trying to be a lot of things to maybe a lot of audience members.
But
at
a lot of
7:30.
space to fill, right? An hour-long show, 26 shows in a
Yeah,
season,
yeah.
like 4 seasons
that's
of
a
doing it
lot,
at 7
yeah.
o'clock. Like, there's a limit to how many times you can do a stunt or a gag or a prank, right?
Yeah.
Like how I guess the writers group swelled out.
Everything
right?
grew, yeah,
Everything
yeah.
grew.
Yeah, it had to.
um,
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
And,
was it
you know,
tough to fill an hour like every week?
Oh, some weeks so, yeah. But other weeks, I mean, we had awesome group of comedians and writers that would be on screen and behind screen, and I think all those people would have made it, 100% without us there. But it was really cool to see, the likes of Rose Matafeo now, and Chris Parker and Eli Matheson
Guy
and
and
Guy Williams.
Like
and,
we were talking
Laura
about the other
Daniel.
day, like the amount of people who are on screen now that came through.
It's
that,
phenomenal.
Alice
Yeah.
Brow, it was all cool. It was really cool,
Yeah,
and all these
something
people are
proud of.
so talented, and they would have done it without us. But it was really cool to be part of that,
Yeah, I'm
Having
keen
that.
to dig
Yeah.
into some of these people that you helped sort of push on their path to incredible careers. Like Rose Matafeo. Did you know what you had when she was there? Did you know?
Yeah.
I think everyone did.
Everyone knew she
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
superstar.
Yeah.
Was it the David Dallas one that kind of cemented it for you guys? 'Cause
Yes.
When I watched that, I watch that still now. It's so good.
Yeah,
So
she was
funny.
just, and she was so young. She was only like 18 or 19 when she was fresh out of school when she started working with us.
Yeah.
In comedy, yeah, and I remember my mum saying, she's like, you just know she's going to be a star. She's going to be a superstar one day, and she is. You know, she's heading that way now, if not already.
Oh,
and
yeah, definitely.
she's just naturally good. You know, she doesn't even have to try.
It's
But
almost
the-
effortless, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing about Rose is she doesn't know she's, you know, and that's probably what makes her so good. She
Yeah.
doesn't know or think she's probably that good, but she just is.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you had Alice Snedden too, right? Head
Yeah.
writer who's worked a lot
Oh
with
yeah,
Rose.
yeah.
And that sort of female voice coming through was
Yeah.
probably quite important for that
Yeah.
7:30 audience.
Yeah.
I really love working with Alice. She's awesome, and she's got such a dark sense of humour. Yeah,
Yeah, which
we'd,
is
we'd write
good,
some
yeah.
gags and be like, no, we're not doing that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
She is also. I mean, their show's been so successful for them. You know,
Because Nick Sampson, who wrote that Starstruck as well, he came through.
You're kind of responsible, right?
Yeah.
Well, as I say, they would have done it without us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's okay to.
But yes,
accept
we're
a little
taking
bit of-
full credit for all of their
Yeah,
success.
do they credit us in the credits of that? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Inspired
nothing.
by? No, I don't
No,
think so.
no, it was a really fun time, and it was great to have, you know, young comedians who otherwise they probably have to go and get other jobs and bars and cafes and things to actually have a full-time gig doing what they've always wanted to do, and to create that, well, help create that. And I'm not going to take all credit, but to help create that opportunity for them was awesome. Yeah.
Because at the peak of your powers, that writing room was sort of how many people?
It kind of varied. There was not that many full time, but there would be days you'd have a whole lot of spec writers coming in on show day. There would be a few. There'd be a good
Yeah.
table of people around it. Yeah.
So it'd be us two, and then probably Sam Smith,
Yeah.
who's a very funny man, Joey, Nick,
Yeah, they kind of
Chris,
change.
really. Yeah, I mean, on and off, there'd probably be 10 on rotation, but, you know, some would come in and help write sketches, or someone help write the links. And,
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in how that actually works. Like a specific example, does someone come in and say, guys, I've got a good idea for a skit, and they kind of have to present it to all the writers, and then they kind of pick it apart and add bits? Like, how does it actually, how does
There's
that
no
part
real
of it work?
method to it. And
Yeah.
how is it like, you know, Ben and myself would come up with ideas and write sketches, and we'd present them to them, or we'd come up with an idea and then we'd all work on it together, or, you know, Nick or Joey or
The
Brindley.
guy would do his, guy was doing a segment or two, so he would do his things, kind of.
There was no structural system. It was like, if it's a good idea, just pitch it,
Yeah.
we'll all write it and get on board with it. But yeah.
Who suggested the gunge machine?
Oh, the guy.
Oh, the gunge was. Why did you bring up the fucking gunge machine?
There were some low points. And that
What was my favourite? And I
Again.
need to give him credit for this. Nick Sampson, which was the spa. Oh, the joke koozie. The joke koozie, which was a sponsor.
comedians would tell jokes. You're like, oh god, it was. There was a few moments. You're
The
like,
joke
what have
koozie will live on in our hearts forever. So we had a sponsor sparkle at the end of each show. A comedian would jump in and tell a one-liner.
and then it would slowly fill up with more comedians in the spa, but it didn't last long.
Yeah.
It
No,
wasn't.
back to the gunge. Like, we never quite nailed the whole gunging
No,
process.
it looked as good. And every week they'd go, our boss Friday would go, they've worked it out. Apparently it's going to come gush. You were like, yeah. Then you watch it, you're like,
Come ejaculating, gunge everywhere.
it was like, oh, that's slightly trickling down the, yeah.
Oh, what was it? Because in the studio, when we were doing the 7:30 in the studio, we're like, oh, it'll be like Fallon and do some in-studio games. And I remember one, we got Andrew Little, who was the Labour leader at the time. We got Andrew Little, come on in here. And we'd seen a thing on YouTube of this guy who could hold T-shirts really quickly. Yeah. And we're like, okay, Little, you're going to do speed T-shirt folding, okay? So we play the video. He's like, I don't really know if I... we're here filming and it's just like Andrew Little. Andrew Little, fold one, fold two. We're like, oh dear God, we're just watching a man fold a T-shirt on television.
Yeah.
Nothing on Andrew Little, but that was, that was all us. But yeah, that was a low point.
Yeah.
Some of the other memorable ones, and perhaps you can lift the lid on it. The one where the excavator got backed into the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be staged, right?
Well, here's the thing. I knew he was doing renos at some point in the year.
Okay.
And I knew that was on the horizon. So I was like, oh, well, I'll dig a hole in the backyard.
Yeah.
And it was never planned to go into the house.
But luckily they moved forward all of the building, which was good. So yeah, it was an expensive. Yeah.
And they had some good insurance.
You must have had some big budgets.
Yeah.
Big budgets? No, just
But
good insurance,
Spending
really.
it on things like that.
Thanks, New Zealand on here.
Yeah, that's probably why it didn't carry on.
Just
Yeah.
pay for your renos, arsehole.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a, there's certainly some times in my collarbone as well.
Oh,
There's
that
things-
was amazing.
Yeah. No, there's
Well, it
things.
wasn't, but
Yeah. I still got it. Still got the bloody
Oh yeah,
poking
so that was
out.
when we put you in a tackle bag, and it was one of those things because we're busy working the 2 jobs at the time, and so you didn't probably think about things as much as you should have going down to it. And I remember when you got there, you're like, I don't know about this. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we're here now.
So we turned up at the blues training, and Jordan Watson, how to dad, he was doing. Jordan Watson was a very valued member of our team. He was
Yeah.
kind of like one of those people who could just do anything. Like could build things, film things, direct things, edit things. So he was directing this thing, and he was like, okay, hop in this tackle bag costume. We're at the blues training.
Didn't have a lot of padding, eh?
Didn't have a lot of padding.
In fact, had none really.
He's like, here's a GoPro, slap a GoPro on your head, mate, and get out there on the 22. So I remember standing on the 22 just looking at the entire blues line, and they were having a shocking
Hey, it
season.
wasn't the Blues. Yeah, it wasn't the Blues like 2022 Blues.
No, it was, I don't think they won a game. So you can see the anger in their eyes. And they all just come piling towards me, and all in a mob, and I could feel as soon as I hit the ground, I couldn't breathe properly. Like, and I sort of felt sick, like you wanted to vomit. And I heard click, click. And then they'd kind of all disperse. And we spoke to Angus Toavel recently. He's like, yeah, bro, you made it real awkward. And so he was like awkwardly standing there, all the blues
They were
like, politely standing around.
And she was like, I think I've broken something. We're like, oh, we has. The medic came over. And I had a moment, because feeling shocking for my mate here, obviously, that, what you're going through. But then John Kirwan was the coach, Sir John Kirwan. And he sort of pulled me aside, and he's like, what you got to do, you got to be there for your mate. And I'm like, oh, my God, there's like 9-year-old me in my head going, John Kirwan's giving me a pep talk. This is the best day of my... Oh, and see Jono over there. Okay, this is quite a bad day.
There's 28-year-old me over here on the ground yelling. I hope you're enjoying your John Kirwan time.
I'm like, he's giving me a pep talk.
But so that was unplanned. And it kind of made us a little gun shy after that, didn't it?
Yeah.
There was that period where you were kind of pranking each other all the time. Were you always kind of aware that something might be going on and that it would make good content, so you kind of had to react along with it?
Well, you sometimes pick up things going on, conversations, you're like, there's something going on. But even now, I'm still paranoid that shit's going on. Like there was a couple, it was probably 6 months ago, I turned up home and there was this goose on my doorstep out of nowhere. Where I was like, John, what's going on? You're looking for the cameras. And it was just like a random baby goose that had turned up.
Just outside here, I was filming him. He was in his car on his laptop. And I was thinking, he looks like a pervert on a laptop in a car.
Yeah, but you're still on
we're
edge.
still bragging.
You're still on edge, But you hear conversations sometimes and you go, I think something's going to be on me this week. But yeah, you wouldn't entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if anything would have happened, you're like, I'm going to rob with this.
Yeah. The one where, Jono, I think you've got a team of people to put Post-it notes all over Ben's house.
Yes.
And then it was kind of like, well, who's the prank really on? Because you spent 8 hours.
Yeah, you spent so long on that,
Yeah.
a team of people. But then it was probably on me because you guys all just left.
And then the thing was, we didn't realise until about probably 3/4 of the way through, we should slightly overlap them so you can just rip them off all one. So it was like 3/4 of the house, you'd go one.
Oh, wow.
Individually.
But it's probably going to that extreme effort of something like that probably made it so good,
Yeah, huge wastage of Post-it notes. What'd you do with all the Post-it notes?
We use them,
Huge wastage.
recycle them.
Kept them in business, though.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the Jono and Ben show. It seems like, I felt like the last season was kind of when it not finally, but it was probably its best version, I felt like.
Yeah, I
agree.
agree. The 7:30 version was our best version. Yeah.
By the end, it found
Yeah.
what it was meant to be. And Guy Williams in particular, like his arc was really incredible to watch over those 7 years. He became like a real player in that, right?
He did. Yeah.
He sort of went from an awkward, and like his style was sort of awkward at the start, not confident. By the end, he was confident. Like it was just again his sort of character of what he was, and he's doing so well with New Zealand Today. Started from that his show, so yeah.
It was kind of by the end, it was kind of everyone knew what they needed to make every week, what content was hitting, what content wasn't hitting. We were able to start doing these weird little missions, like the marathon running thing. We'd kind of do some of those.
Sailing a bouncy castle across Taupo.
Which were like, that's a sweet spot for us. And sort of.
We knew what,
when we found that we were like interacting with the public and Kiwis down the line and stuff, we kind of felt comfortable for Ben and myself in terms of the content we were making. Guy with his New Zealand Today, and also he had that little show that he was doing in the garage. What's that called?
Guy Williams show.
The Guy Williams show. It's got a show within a show.
Yeah.
He really found his footing
Laura
with that.
Brindley, all that.
Laura's parodies and stuff. So
the songs were incredible as well.
Yeah, she's so talented.
Super talented.
Was that all her?
Yeah, her and Joseph Moore, they
Yeah.
together on screen and off screen.
And
yeah.
off screen, yeah. Engaged now, are they?
Yeah.
So
they're a
were-
great little team. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of everyone was just doing their own thing. Well, not doing their own thing, but we all knew what was happening. But it was kind of everyone knew what they needed to do and what was hitting.
When I think back to the show and I think about what actually stood out, it's some of those stunts that we've mentioned. But it was also, and I think it was in that last year, was when your friend took his life,
Yeah.
and then you went on air
Mm.
and talked about it
Mm.
and expressed yourself. And man, that was powerful.
Mm.
That was really powerful. Was that because he passed away that week, right? Was that a tough
Yeah,
decision?
yeah. It was a heavy week. Jeez, I can still get emotional about it now. Yeah, he got the crying. He
I don't want to jump and take your moment, but Jono that day was shit, man. I mean, you went to the funeral that day, which was like we were all like, "Don't come to the show, don't do the show," and you were like, "No, I want to do the show. I want to have that, to have that as part of that week." And I mean, you turned up from that funeral and did that show that night, and then in the show, you're like, "I want to say something," and we're like, "Yeah, of course, say something." And what he said, it was just, because I guess we hadn't really had those real moments on Jono and Ben.
I was just about to say,
know.
the personal sadness aside, the importance of someone in that time slot saying something so meaningful for other people to go, fuck, actually, this shit happens to everybody. And the power that gave viewers, I think, was really important. It was like a milestone moment kind of in TV. Not to sensationalize it, but massively important to have that, and also to have that captured for eternity now as well.
But coming from Jono, who's a blokey bloke, a guy, it's all been fun and laughs and gags and pranks, and then to express himself, there's a reason it went viral, right? There's a reason that it totally caught fire, and even to this day, I'm sure it probably has instigated conversations with your friends, with us. I mean, we talk about this stuff a lot more since those things became a lot more public.
Well, you're right. There was a lot. I mean,
Oh no, it was like you say, it was the night before funeral, and I was talking to my mate Baz. I was having a couple of beers, and he was like, "Oh, so you're going to the funeral tomorrow, obviously?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Then I'm going to go and do the telly show." And he's like, "What the fuck are you thinking? Going to work?" And I was like, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. It's like it was a live telly show. I just thought that I could go to the funeral and do that as well. And he's like, "Well, if you're going, you need to say something. You need to say, get a message across." And went to the funeral, turned up at the show, and got through the show. Kind of blubbered my way through the thing at the end, and all the audience was a bit like, "What the fuck was that?" And went back to Blake and Baz. He was like, "How'd it go? Did you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." Ended up crying and was fucking, it was a shambles. And woke up the next morning and it was kind of,
Wasn't a shambles at all.
No, it's so powerful,
Yeah.
just what you were going through, and to do that, as I say, it was unexpected from everyone, but it was, it was awesome you did that. And as you say, there's so many people now, Mike King, Bryce Casey, having these conversations and doing these things for mental health for blokes, but not just, and Jazz Thornton and stuff, Sir JK,
Yeah,
it's all part of it.
say, it was a very small part of what was a massive conversation.
Sorry to cut you off, but an important part, like Steve raised a massive point. I don't know whether we had quite an open and frank conversation that I remember very vividly, which maybe you wouldn't have had asked me those kind of questions over a coffee if there wasn't a platform or someone that had done that before.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll never know. Don't gloss over too much, mate.
No, well, I like, if it helps anyone anyway, then I'm, humbled. And I guess for me, it was like, what we do, we've got an important platform, and we can use it at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you did was awesome, and it was live too, that was no take twos, that was just from the heart, it was.
I wonder if that also set the sort of the new direction in a way, because as you get older, the stunts and the pranks and the gags, they can't last forever.
Yeah.
But talking about things that are happening in your life, which are affecting you and your family and your friends, it's powerful. Like, is that kind of, with the radio stuff you do now, is that more the direction you guys are going?
Yeah, I guess when we were working together on The Rock or The Edge, mainly on The Rock, you probably wouldn't talk about, your family as much, unless it was a gag-related thing. But now you can feel like, can be a bit more comfortable in that real space You know?
Yeah, and I guess that's where entertainment is now too. You know, it's a lot more real than what it was when we were back, you know, doing Pulp Sport and whatever the Jono show was at, at that time. You know, it's a lot. People can see through bullshit now, through the internet, and you know they can call a spade, and you can be called out in the comment section if anything's fake, if anything's real. So I think people can see or hear or they know when something's genuine and it's not now. You know.
Yeah, that's another good point that I sort of raised earlier. Crediting myself with a good point. Like how much the show changed from season 1 to season 7, and things that you did in season 1 you couldn't have done in season 7. And you think to now, you know, to back to Jono and Ben and Jono Project and things, like how it is all changing, and it's all changing so quickly. And you're right, people can... is it the internet? Is it people got a phone and can, like, check you on the spot? I don't know what it is, but, like, that humour has changed, right?
It has, yeah. No, I think it's an interesting time for comedy at the moment as well. I know a lot of the comedians just like they're kind of in a weird space of if they do offend someone, there's so much backlash instantly. You know, you can the cancel culture's alive and well, and so I think comedy's in a really interesting space. And we always like joke about. Well, the only people you can bully and make jokes about are ourselves. We only bully each other now.
on yourself, you know.
Like, we're
you'll
cool
pick
with
on
it.
yourself, you know.
Yeah, so we try not to, you know, we always said we never wanted to punch down when we're doing all through the TV show, never wanted to punch down on people who are below us. But then you're like, oh, you know, celebrities are fine, you can mock celebrities, you can make fun of celebrities, but they're actually real people as well.
Yeah.
Actors and musicians. And so, you know, it's a great thing that's also been shone upon, a lot's been shone upon that. So I think that's probably changed the way that we approach stuff, you know, and the way that we make content is like you wouldn't just go and mock a celebrity for no reason.
No.
But I think it's a credit to yourselves as well that you've shared the evolution of your characters over the last 20 years, right? Like we as audience have watched you evolve, and I think your popularity or your relatability is probably a better word than popularity is still relevant. It's still for 40-year-old me and probably 20-year-old someone else who's kind of grown up watching you, and their parents maybe watched you as well. It's quite phenomenal.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing what you were doing in the past, what you take with you into the future. You know,
Yeah,
like, we can't be going around pranking, you know, weird uniforms and, you know, pranking members of the public.
Yeah, you do it from time to time. But
Oh
you
God,
don't-
that's sad,
Dressing up as
guys.
R. Kelly anymore.
you know, you do it now and again, but you're not
Yeah.
doing it every week like you
Yeah.
do, because otherwise you're like, oh, guys, come on, that's a bit sad. Yeah.
And you know, we've got wives and kids, and you know they go to school, and so life. It's just life. It changes, and I guess you need to evolve with it, or your character or persona or whatever on radio or TV needs to evolve with it as well. Otherwise, you just look like, oh, there's just a sad, desperate old bald man clinging on to his teenage, early 20s years.
So about halfway through Jono and Ben, you guys started doing the radio show together as well on The Rock, right? Like, how was that? Like, you guys are seeing so much of each other. Are you doubling down? Are you using content from the show on the radio, or does it have to be exclusive? Like, how do you keep coming up with different stuff?
We're probably using a little bit of across both. Yeah, I guess
When
from
we were
time to time.
doing the both.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, and
But-
like when we're filming, we'd go and record content for radio that would use that after.
It was always, I think, when we felt we were at that sweet spot of cracking the two jobs, was the fact that we'd do something like sailing the bouncy castle across Taupo, and we're making this mission happen on radio while also filming the bits at the same time. So
Yeah.
we're talking to the guy
Yeah.
who's mate Charles, who's from Lance, putting the boat together on radio, and they were making the radio audience part of this thing that's going to be on the and we're like, wow, this is the way to combine, but we never always cracked that.
No,
Yeah.
but it was, and then that would kind of work out on a linear point of view too. From if you started 2 weeks ago, it's, we're sailing this bouncy castle, blah, 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 then it's on telly at the end of that week. It was kind of the perfect mingling of both platforms.
And other times you're running around doing something that will never go on. You're like,
You're like,
oh.
and so we always used to joke, so we just do an average job of doing 2 jobs, and we were always 15 minutes late for everything. You're, sorry, we'll have a
I remember one month. I mean, we can't complain. It was awesome. We loved doing it. I mean, shit, I missed doing that show, but it was busy. Like, we were working, like crazy hours.
Yeah.
But I remember once you were putting on some suit weirdly at the museum, and you just looked at me and goes, "What's this sketch again?"
Why am I dressing up like a condom or something?
And I was like, "It's the one with the thing." And you're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. We came out there a couple of days ago." But it just had that moment when so much is going through your head. You're like, "What yours? Oh yeah, that's right. And then back into it. But,
Yeah, but your big thing was just walking in a room. Sorry. Like, sorry.
Yeah, because you don't want to look like you're the
Everyone's
guys
patiently
making everyone
waiting
wait. But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, spending so much time and working on so many things together, do you ever get in arguments? Like Shay and I spend quite a lot of time together, and I get really passive aggressive when I get a little bit. But we've never had like a.
Finally.
That's therapy, guys.
Yeah, talk about it.
Finally, you've admitted it.
But we've never had like an argument. Like we've never had like a big blow up or
No.
anything. Did you guys ever have a moment where?
To be honest, we haven't, and everyone's
No.
quite surprised by that because we have been. It's over, many years, over I don't know, 10, 15 years we've been
Yeah.
working together, and yeah, like we work. I mean, we're seeing each other more than our families when we're doing the shows, 10,
Yeah.
12 hours a day, radio, TV, and 6, 7 days a week sometimes.
Yeah.
We haven't, like, we discuss stuff. Like, we definitely, like, talk things, you debate things. You're like, hey, we think this, I don't like that, but it's,
Yeah.
we normally find a compromise or find a place.
Yeah, I think
Maybe we're building up the.
yeah, there's a lot of people frustration.
It's going to come out.
Yeah, it's like you guys. You can't work together for so long and have those underlying little niggles. I
Yeah.
mean, it would just never last. It would never work. So yeah, I mean, what we've got is really special, and I really appreciate the relationship that I have with Ben because it's just easy. It's got to that point, and again, it's probably the same as you. You can have a conversation without even talking. Like we're a married couple. We can literally drive from Auckland to Hamilton and not say a word, but it will be such a rewarding journey.
Or sometimes
We
we
would've-
won't stop, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
Or we'll mumble. Everyone's like, you just mumbled. And John's like, yeah, I know what you meant. And off
He's
he
a
goes.
mumbler. He'll just go,
you're like,
okay,
yeah,
mate,
yeah,
I know
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to know another human being on that level.
And
that
we
well.
genuinely get on so great,
Yeah.
It's awesome to, I feel very lucky that I get to do what I do, but with someone that I really love hanging out with, that's cool. And I mean, I feel like we do stuff okay sometimes by ourselves, but coming together is kind of what makes us, there's not so many duos out there. There's lots of other great individual people. So that kind of means what we do, it's crappy gags and occasional pranks and silly stuff, but it's kind of what we are. And it's been kind of cool to,
Yeah.
so lucky to do
And
it.
someone we hosted the musical awards one year, and someone came up there afterwards like, oh, we need to pull you aside. It's like, I hear you and Ben absolutely hate each other. You don't even, I heard you don't even talk.
Yeah, you're like, wow, really?
So, get that rumour out there. I love it.
yeah. But it's actually generally pretty,
Yeah, and we politely answer to each other's names in public. The amount of dastardly things I've done under Ben's name is, and he's the
My
same.
kids call me Jono if they want me to go somewhere in the mall. Like, come on, Jono. You're like, all right, here you go, because I won't be listening to them.
Actually, on that, how did you manage to get top billing in the name?
Well, because when it started at 10, it was
Jono and Ben at 10. Yeah, Jono and Ben
John
at
Ben
10.
at 10.
Ah.
Yeah.
And it just feels weird going Ben and Jono now for some reason.
Yeah. So it was purely for rhyming
Nah,
based
hey,
reasons.
doesn't worry me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to kind of drive a wound into
Yeah, it's like, we always want to
Yeah.
put my name first.
pick away at that scab.
Yeah. No, we
Um,
kind of don't. Yeah. We
So
haven't really-
to continue the trend of prodding away at the worst moments of your lives, when the show ended that last season, like we were talking about, you hit your straps. Everything was going well. You're employing a huge team of New Zealand comedians and writers and production artists and editors and things. Did that come as a surprise that things were ending?
I guess you always knew with TV it was that particular show was going to end, but I guess it's still gutting. It still hurts, that you make a show that you love doing and you kind of don't get to carry
Yeah.
on doing it. So yeah.
It was like you say, it was a bit disappointing because it wasn't that final year that we did find how the show was working. I reckon the 2 or 3 years it probably would have hung around longer. But yeah, every year you're like, this is going to end. This is going to end. So
But
7
when it
years.
does, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't. I don't think anything prepares you for. Well, personally for me, I found it hard. Going, it's like I sympathise. Anyone loses a job sucks. But and it's not saying this is any. But you're having conversations about it every day because everyone knows you've lost the job.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, you're not doing the show. Yeah, you're not doing the show. So I found that tough for for a long time. Gets you kind of down, but you kind of
And it's kind of taken us probably till this year to kind of. Nathan Rari emailed and he's like, I remember when they used to do Ice TV
Yeah,
remember
I remember
with,
that,
with John Bridges and Petra.
love email.
He did, yeah. He was like, oh, listen, I remember when that all ended for us, and I felt like a bottle bobbing around in the ocean and not knowing what direction to go in. And that was a really good analogy that we've kind of just been like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. We've been like, we'll write a movie script, we just, and you kind of scattergun all these things that you try and do.
Busy doing? We're like, what are we busy doing? Like, what actual things?
Mate, you will never find two guys busier but getting no results right now.
The other day you said to me, you're like, we're busy, but what are we doing?
What are we doing? She and my wife's like, what the fuck are you just typing away at it?
Busy.
We're just busy. Yes.
This guy.
The same.
Busy. But
I'm busy, man. I'm so busy right now. What the fuck could you possibly be doing?
And it's not, I can't complain about. But it's hard to sort of know for us, I guess, in some ways what. Because
Well, 'cause you always said-
we were doing parts of a sketch or a out and about thing, all of so many elements, and now you're like, do we make a show that's this or what?
Yeah.
So-
And it's it's being on that hustle again. It's kind of taken us back to the Pulp Sport and the early days from C4 where you're out grinding, you have to have meetings and pitch shows and write scripts and
radio's awesome. If it's
radio's fantastic. Yeah, we obviously love doing that every day, but yeah, it's kind of just on the TV front and that side. You're just back in the grind, and everyone's hustling in that industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Radio has kind of been that anchor that's pulled you through, and you've jumped around a few stations, to the rock, to the edge, to the hits, and they're different demographics, right? I mean, the rock is quite different to the hits.
Yeah.
Does that come into strategy about obviously appealing to your new audience? Like how much do you think about what you're actually putting out there and how it has to change?
I've always seen it as such because like I said to you guys at the beginning, I love broadcasting and the idea of broadcasting, and I really fucking love rock music as well, and that's a passion of mine. So to work on the rock was an absolute dream. But I've kind of, and I'm sure you're the same, each format you go to, you just add more strings to your broadcasting bow, so to speak, and the craft. So like we were doing what we're doing on the rock, we were doing that on the edge, but then you added in a bit more stuff that you would talk about that you wouldn't have talked about on the rock, and again you go from the edge to the hits, and you add more stuff, and you're more about families and that sort of thing, but you're still doing like
You're finding your
part of
content
what we're doing on the rock,
Yeah,
we're doing on
yeah.
the hits, but you just add more to it.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed that part of sort of expanding of the craft. Yeah.
Has it changed in the way that back in the day it was all about the ratings, and now it's like how many people are interacting with social media posts and things? Like, is that...
Yeah. I think your radio, you're filming stuff and you're doing, I guess like now you're making a podcast, but you're also filming things, and that was for a while. We started again, old men talk about stuff that wasn't around.
We should rebrand.
Old men talking about old stuff. You don't know how good you got it.
But we would be engaged in radio, but you're doing stuff and you do a video, you're like, oh, look, like I'm not paying any attention, but you are. But so you have to be in the moment, like looking like you're in the moment more.
Yeah.
That's changed, and everyone's racing to make videos for radio and all that. So
Yeah.
Have you been surprised by something you thought was going to go viral, which flunked, or something which went absolutely crazy, which you had no idea about? Like, is there a bit of pressure to try to create viral content, and it's actually really hard to do?
Yeah, you can't really pick what's going
I was
to.
talking to someone the other day. They're like, "I love the term. Go and create a viral video." You're like, "Well, you made that sound fucking easy."
yeah. Like sometimes you feel good about something, but then you don't.
Yeah, it doesn't
Sort of,
really.
yeah. And
It's-
other times you're like, that's gone a lot.
There's no rhyme or reason, and this is really pulling back the curtain. But the bloody Facebook algorithms, they're all up there. It's a no. TikTok's the one. When he first got on TikTok, when it was like, I was like, "What are you doing dancing with 14-year-old girls?"
I wasn't dancing with one of you.
Let's clear that up. I really want to clear that up.
But you're like, that's like you look like you're on a platform that.
Just to clarify,
Thank you.
New Zealand Herald, Ben dances with 14-year-old girls on TikTok.
Which
Which is okay.
but I'm not. I think
But it was the TikTok thing. Where was I going with that?
You mock me, and then the 6 months later, you're like, we need to get on TikTok.
This
I'm
is
like,
this guy
Yeah,
as
I'm
well.
back in
This is
TikTok
this
drama.
guy.
Like, mate, TikTok, that's our growth area.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the Wild West TikTok. Like you just see the best and worst in humanity on there, and we're the worst in humanity on there, and you can just chuck. So it's a bit more friendly, for people to see your content for some reason.
I'll be honest, TikTok was always just a gateway to OnlyFans for me.
And he's open about that.
What's your account, bro?
Yeah. It's flustered me, the only thing.
I know you're a big
Just
TikTok guy.
the memories of the
I think I
OnlyFans.
just said TikTok, by the way.
Yeah, everyone's a bit flustered.
Yeah.
There's a few bits and pieces that I want to prod away at. One of them is a story I heard, and it's sort of going back to the Jono and Ben show. Was there one where you had like a hidden camera and it was like the gag was Guy Williams was getting told off for something.
Yes.
And then it became really quite awkward.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. We were like, we're going to make a gag with our boss, John McDonald, one of our bosses at the time, telling him off about something, we're embellishing the story, pulled him into the office. We had hidden cameras in there. We're all watching the thing, and John came from it from a roundabout way.
He did.
Going, okay, so how are you enjoying the show, Guy? And Guy is such an open book that he went into the things that he loved and he also the things he hated about the show. And midway through, we're like, oh God, we're listening to that. We sort of took off our headphones, we sort of switched off the screen.
I remember the final thing I heard. He was like, and they made me dress up like a cucumber.
I was wearing wigs or something. Was one thing I remember.
Wearing wigs.
But that was very light on his. And the guys, and then we had to awkwardly sort of talk to Guy afterwards. And go,
Because we took the headphones off, we're like, we can't be listening. This is like an employment
Yeah.
conversation. So we kind of sort of the way they were like, okay, we stepped down the room, we're like, this meeting's still going on. And we're like, okay, what do we do?
We're not going to play the footage.
He doesn't know that we're filming it. He doesn't know we've heard it. We don't have to put it on here. It could all just be on. And we're like, no, we're going to tell him.
So we
We're going
did.
to tell him. And then he came out, we're like, how was your meeting? He's like, yeah, no, good. We're like, hey.
You can tell, like,
He's like,
what?
because if you have that moment, you're like, dear God, what did
am
I
meant to
say?
And then we're like, Johnny Mac, we love Johnny Mac, but you're like, you started with a, you meant to hit him with
It's like a performance review.
just sort of, yeah.
It
So that
never
was,
made it to here.
no, I don't think so. I don't know if it did. Yeah. Well, definitely that first part didn't. So yeah, that was very awkward.
Gold. The other one was the Graham Norton red chair experience.
yeah.
Do you workshop the story that you got? Like how many stories were made the shortlist, and how do you decide which one you're going
I
to tell?
think we had to submit stories. So because obviously TV3 had a relationship with the Graham Norton show, and we were going over filming some stuff over there, and we were like, hey, it would be awesome. Can we get in the people that could be on the red chair? And they were like, yeah, that's cool. You can be part of the group, but not everyone makes the cut. Give it a go. And so, yeah, well, sweet. So we knew we were part of the longer form of people doing it. And yeah, and I think we submitted a couple stories, and they kind of went, yeah, that one, and
Yeah, then you sort of just wait in this sort of, it's very glamorous out the front, but it's backstage. Tom Cruise was there, wasn't he?
it was Tom Cruise, Coldplay. There was Steve McFarlane,
some
Charlize
big
Theron. It
bangers,
was
yeah.
like so many people. I think Emily Blunt. There was so
We
many
were
people.
sitting in the audience, I'm like, Tom Cruise is just there.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, come on, everyone, come do your stories. And you're sort of waiting out the back.
And we were in uniform, as we do. I've made you wear a uniform, like a
Yeah, we had
uniform.
matching blazers.
Yeah.
And before you go and sit down on the red chair, they're like, listen, the red chair is not as aggressive as it looks, I'll tell you. So
Pull
they're
back
like,
the
if
curtain.
you get flipped, just kick your legs up so it looks more dangerous than it actually is. And then I got on there and Seth MacFarlane's like, nice prep jacket, asshole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, boom.
That's right. Straight away from the jacket, I was like, oh, the badge. And so I think I took mine off. I was straight after one, which got a laugh because I was wearing the same jacket. And then, yeah, managed to tell the story, but still get flipped at the same
At
time.
the same
So,
time.
yeah.
It was a wild trip. We started in Portugal and then went to Spain. I think that same day I'd been run over by a bull in Spain. Then we caught a flight to
Wow.
London to do the Graham Norton show. And then we had to do radio that night. I remember we were like, it was like 12 o'clock at night in London in this hotel. We just would have our heads on the desk. And then we were like,
We were still wearing shirts and ties, but
We're
you
still-
looked like you'd lost all your money in the stocks. It was kind of
Yeah.
all
halfway.
dishevelled. And you kind of just lift your head and Ben
I
would be
go,
like,
it's the Rock, Jono and Ben, blah, blah. And then Jono would slowly get his head. I
and
go,
like, and then you put your head down.
It was like,
It was a bleak radio show.
yeah.
You mentioned a few big names there. Like, was there? You've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world. Is there a thing where it's kind of like they've just got it backed up, fucking radio show after radio show, interview after interview? Everyone's kind of trying to come in with their interesting, new, quirky questions. Like, how do you try to separate yourself? You've got to just try the same thing, right? Some interesting, new, quirky take on
Yeah,
things.
it's a weird, those junkets, those celebrity junkets, they call them. They were weird. We did a few of them. We're lucky enough to do them. But I mean, I'm flying to, sound like a wanker, flying to New York to Kevin Hart and The Rock. And I think they've done 3 days in a row of 4-minute interviews.
Yeah.
You know, and
And
I was
you
like,
can imagine New Zealand's not at the top
I
of
was
the pile.
second
No.
last on the third day, I
Yeah,
think, as
they're
well. And I
just,
think
like,
as I came
so
in, you hear them go,
jaded from
3 to go, 3 to go. You know, like, they were definitely. And, you know, obviously you got to play within the realms of, you know, you want to be different, you want to, you know, and you've got no time to kind of get to know them, but you also don't want to, you can't make too much of an idiot of yourself because the movie company isn't going to be happy if it's not movie focused. So we had a moment Suicide Squad. We went over to New York and we talked to Jared Leto, who's the Joker.
And this was Will Smith as well. This was pre-Chris Rock.
Oh yeah, he was
Pre-Chris
part of
Rock
that. Yeah, so we were like, and we'd sort of watched a bit of, like you guys researching about who we're going to talk to. Jared Leto by himself, and we're like, I don't know if he's gonna be on our wavelength, our vibe of, he's a really great
He's an
actor.
actor.
Yeah. Is he going to be up for our silly gags? But we're like, we'll give it a go. And we had this idea because he was the Joker. I bought like hairspray, green hairspray and lipstick over. And we're like, hey, can we give Jono a Joker makeover in this interview? And he's like, oh my God, yes. And he loved it. He was like,
he was like spraying it on. He's putting lipstick on. He's like, you like that, you bitch? Don't you? And he's like, and we're like, mate, we're friends with Jared Leto. We're like,
this is great. We were high-fiving on the way out. We're like, awesome, nailed our first one. And then some lady comes going, she was terse and
very terse, yeah.
Come over here. And you're like, oh God. And we got a telling off.
What the fuck was that?
Really?
And we're like,
But it was about because we thought, it was movie focused. He's the Joker, but I guess it was too gimmicky. She's like, "You're lucky he liked it, otherwise he'd be gone." And we sat down in a corner,
and she looked at me. And she's like, "You think this is funny?"
And
my lips were sad, but my Joker face was smiling.
And we sat in the corner. And we had wet wipes, and I was wet wiping his head like quietly, and we were like so sad. We're like, "Oh, we've ruined this. Oh, we don't want to upset anyone. It's not our vibe." And then we had to pick ourselves up. Like, come on, Pryor, come on, boys.
Together.
Get back in the game. But
And then you got your ass out in front of. I made you get your bottom out in the final interview.
But I was like, please don't make me do this. We're going to get sent home. So we're talking to someone from an overseas one, and they got their memory card snapped by someone because they did something. So you can go home and go, hey, we went to New York and we got nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And are you going to that trip just for that 4-minute interview?
Well,
That's
sometimes
a lot of
you would
pressure
be,
building up on.
I know. You're like, got to make this good. Got to come back with this thing. And then you come back and you're like.
And usually they'll go, hey, you got 4 minutes. You know how you had 4 minutes and you got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they're always running over time.
Yeah.
So
I think Arnie, we had 2 minutes and he started talking and I was like, oh, this is like, in your head you're like, this is a long answer, we're going to use this, can I interrupt Arnie? He's like, oh God, he's talking about Time Magazine and the movie.
Time Magazine voted it the best action movie.
And I was like, do you know if my dad's going to be back? Because he was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
Oh, your gag was, do you know if my dad will be back? He said, I'll be back when he went to the dairy, and he never came back.
And you could tell it was in those moments you sort of looked at it, like, not quite on the, it's like, is this guy for real? Yeah.
That's so. Do you on the flight over for one of those things? Are you like, fuck, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the I'll be back gag. It's a long way.
Maybe we should have had that thought.
We should have, because he was like, I don't know everything about who's going to be back, and you're like, don't talk about your daddy issues with Arnie, and it was a funny moment, but for his awkwardness, it was the interview. He probably walked out going, who are these guys? Yeah.
That's so good.
But it's a weird sort of thing. It's
surreal, yeah.
Surreal.
But now they just do them over Zoom, obviously.
A lot of them,
That has been
Kim
a game.
Crossman does them all now, doesn't she? She's
great.
Yeah,
one,
Kim does them on the project, but
Because
yeah.
they start your time from the moment you click onto it or you click the room. So any banter you have, you're like, this part of your time.
You walk in, there's like a camera guy who's like gives zero shits. He's like, one they weren't even pointing the camera at us. I was like, mate, can you just up a bit?
We never have 2 chairs, which is fine. We just sit on each other's laps, but that would throw them all out.
Yeah, you're like, because you walk in, they're like, we don't have 2 chairs. So, what do you think? You can get another chair? They're like, nah. I'm always like,
We should have done that. We should have done that.
Yeah.
Jason Statham's like, you look like you're a ventriloquist with his hand up your bum. Yeah.
Are you numb to the celebrity now? Like, are there any people you've interviewed that you're like, holy shit, this is a fucking big deal?
Oh, that's always cool. Like, I always buzz out with that. Yeah. And we haven't done heaps of it. We're not like, Kate Roger or anything. But that was a really cool, surreal sort of, oh my God,
Yeah, we did. I mean, one of the probably the most surreal moments I think we had was only last year, I think, where because Ben's a massive fan of Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Who's not?
Huge fan of Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Which is weird given his body type. But doesn't take too much inspiration. But yeah, I made him get a classic radio stunt. Talkability. Dwayne the Rock. I had Dwayne the Rock Johnson and Love Heart on his bottom, isn't it? I love
bottom,
Dwayne the Rock. Yeah, the rock bottom. And so then we're like, oh, take a photo of it. We'll get it on his Instagram. And so we did that, and nothing.
Yeah, we thought maybe we'd get, because he's quite good at replying to some people from time to time. We're like, this will get his attention. We had his tequila. Managed to get into the country.
No traction. And it was like, I was like 6 months, and I was like, sorry, mate, you get it. Dwayne the Rock Johnson tattoo. And then an interview came up with, they were doing Jungle Cruise, and him and Emily Blunt were like, this is the perfect opportunity for Ben to show.
So you surprised me with
he
the
didn't know
interview.
about this. Yeah, and so we were in Wellington filming something else, and so they'd set up in a movie theatre that they'd be on this giant movie
Well, I thought we
screen.
were watching a screening of it. Like, that's cool. We got some time in between some radio stuff, and then they came up and were like,
They came
"Holy
up.
shit, is this a message?" And they're like, "No, they're actually there."
It's like, they were like, Ben. He's like, oh, and so interacting. I got through the interview. I was like, hey, listen, sorry to make this awkward, but, old mate's got a tattoo of you. And he's like, what? I was like, oh, because we didn't get his buddy out immediately. I had a photo of it. I was like, here's the photo. He's like, oh, you're kidding me.
I've seen that. I've got
He's
that.
like, I've seen that. He's like, I've got it saved on my phone. And anybody bumps like, he texted to me going, you should get one.
Yeah,
And he showed his phone.
Like,
and
oh
he
my
got-
god, The Rock has got it on his phone. He got some weird shot of my bum on his phone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then they got it out, and it was
Must
yeah.
follow your TikTok, actually.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But that was pretty surreal. That was a moment going, oh my god, he's not only seen it, but he's got it on his phone. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
We won't keep you much longer because I know you got early starts in the morning. But the breakfast radio side of things, like how long can you last with those early mornings, and what time do you go to bed, and how do you deal with that side of things?
I know, you're always just operating at varying levels of tiredness.
Yeah, I
That's-
think having kids kind of helps you for that.
it does. It prepares you. Yeah, it's
It's fun. We enjoy it. I mean,
yeah. I think I prefer the morning to the afternoon because we both say that you're more.
It's not hanging over your head.
You're
yeah,
not
you're
engaged,
engaged in it. Yeah,
Yeah, you're in the moment. It's for some reason. You're probably more alert, and you have to talk after every song and every ad break, and you just you're in the show more. And without sounding like a wanker, I think we're kind of probably doing some of our best radio content that we have over the last 12 months for that reason, that you're engaged.
It's not a performance review, mate. The boss is like,
And I'd love another 5-year contract.
I'm not gonna say
We're doing really well. We're doing really well.
Great. Sign the contract now. Yeah. So no, I think we both enjoy the mornings, but yeah, you kind of you get up at I get up at a mental.
He goes for a run. He goes for a run
yeah.
Before work.
before work.
Yeah.
Or in the
3:30.
Wow.
3:30. I'm up. Yeah.
No way.
Which
Yeah.
is crazy because like every
Well, I did
minute
run
counts.
until I hurt my back, and then he made me do a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, to kind of just do a weird
Because
YouTube
we sort of meet at
workout.
work about 5 o'clock, but yeah, but you're always up,
I find it a nice,
Wow.
peaceful time of the morning. You know,
Yeah.
Or evening.
it's really nice because we park at Sky City, and it's nice walking over here because it's 3 blocks away from where the studios are, and just walking past people who are vomiting and stuff. And you're like, I don't know who's losing here. Are we the losers for being up this early going to work, or them still out?
This has been so cool. You've hinted at a few things that you might script writing and TV shows. Is there anything you're able to talk about, or is it all sort of?
Yeah, we
hush
can talk
hush?
about because nothing's happening.
Yeah, like what are the
We've
ideas?
got a
What-
few things in there for pictures and stuff. So,
Yeah,
just
we wrote a movie script, but it's
that
just
too, yeah.
well, it's just words on paper at the moment. Like it's
Yeah.
not being made yet. But that
Yeah.
was that was something when we came.
That was a lockdown project,
it
wasn't
was
it?
a lockdown project. Yeah, so we've written something.
How do you write a movie script together? Does one person do the first draft and the other person?
We get
Yeah.
shared sort of document, but
Yeah.
but we kind of
We'd collected stories and scenes over the 10 years of however long we'd been doing what we've been doing, just jotting them down. And we're like, oh, one day we'll try and
piece them together in a story.
we've got time on our hands, and the TV show ended. We had time on our hands,
Yeah.
and we kind of just sort of weaved them together into this story. But yeah, like I say, it's just a one big giant word document.
Yeah,
Word
so will it get
document at
made?
the
I don't
moment.
know,
Yeah,
but
who
it's-
knows?
It's fun to have those sort of things to kind of dream about and hopefully keep
Yeah.
hustling for.
If anyone wants to read it, they
Yeah.
can get in
Yeah.
contact.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
If
look
anyone wants to fund an amateur movie script by 2 script writers who have never written a movie.
Yeah.
can we give
You're
a
selling well.
tagline about what it's about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very New Zealand movie where New Zealand's most famous movie star is a sheep, and a group of friends kidnap the sheep.
But it's got a heart.
It's got a heart.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they're kidnapping the sheep to help their friend out of severe depression and debt.
So
It's ludicrous but heartfelt at the same
So we're
time.
trying to merge the two.
Yeah.
Someone will have a
I'll
little
pick it
nibble
up.
on that. Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry
Well,
about
I mean, and if not, we'll do pornography.
Yeah.
I mean,
that.
Yeah.
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans,
That's
yeah.
where the money
we're
goes.
open to that as well. Anything in the film world.
It's still a film, right? It's
still a movie.
Man, this has been so good. Shay, I always get him to sort of cover things off. Any bits I've missed?
I kind of, on the animal theme, I kind of want to loop back to Pulp Sport.
Yeah.
I always wanted to know who was in that fox suit.
Oh, what a very like.
Did
the
it
actual-
change?
Yeah, it did change.
Okay.
One of us would kind of depending on what it was, you'd kind of do your turn in it. But then we'd do like the Scooby Doo ending from time to time, and I think some people thought, oh, you've got such and such to do all the rest of the stuff. And it was like, no, they just popped up for the last
Right.
little bit. Yeah.
That's some real niche Pulp Sport.
Yeah. That's what Shay
the
does.
mascot that we still sits in my garage in a bag.
Was Jay Laguire in the mascot and you made him break his leg?
No, he wasn't in a mascot suit, but he was just doing basketball with Dylan Boucher. We were doing. They were just warming up, and he ended up just one of those freak accidents where you kind of move the wrong way, and I think his kneecap ended up splitting. It was in one of our first shoots ever. And he was amazing, like Joe. He was like, okay, what you guys need to do, you need to bring the cameras down. We need to piece the camera to get out of this. And we're just like, oh my god, you've injured yourself.
You've got a broken leg.
We've got And the ambulance came, took him away. He was still that thing. And I think we ended up delaying because he was in Star Wars at the time. We delayed the shooting of Star Wars for some crappy thing that we did for no money because no one got paid for that, which is amazing that he just had that. Yeah. And he was just like, we were in shock, and he was like, you got to film this thing, you got to do this thing, and you're like, okay.
So Jay Laguire with a broken leg is directing you.
Yeah, exactly. All right, piece the cam, got to get this, keep rolling. You're like, oh my god, yeah, it was incredible. Yeah.
Nice. Man, thank you so much, and Jono, thank you for being open about the mental health stuff and how we dealt with your friend. I felt like I kind of sprung that on you, but I think it was a really cool chat, and I think I think people listening will take a lot from it.
Oh, no,
so thanks for the highs and the lows and sharing your story. And
thanks for having us. It's a real honor to be on your podcast.
Yeah. You guys are doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, really downscale from like Dame Susan DeVoy.
Have you gone from Susan to us?
Yeah, just recently,
Oh, that's a big leap. It's a big leap.
There's like Kieran Reid. There's a whole lot of people who are like, we really don't deserve to be on here, but thank you.
That self-depreciation is such a Kiwi thing, and I've heard you describe yourselves as mildly amusing. You're far more than mildly amusing. Far more than mildly amusing.
It's kind of like, it is a Kiwi thing. You always kind of, you get first crack at yourself because that's kind of a defense thing, isn't it? But yeah, it's kind of been the way you kind of do. But we kind of enjoy that. We're kind of, and we mock ourselves so people can kind of mock us as well. So not all, some of the Facebook stuff hurts, but
the trick is bully yourself before others can bully you.
Yeah, just don't read the comments and the some of the articles sometimes. Yeah.
What I love was there was a bad comment section on one article about the show. And it was going negative. And I jumped under there. I was like, under bald guy 22. And I was like, hey, they don't seem that bad. Like, just to try and turn the tide.
Change the narrative.
Pylon. Was it a pylon from the rest of the...
It's like, what's wrong with you, you fuck? What? What show have you been watching?
100 thumbs downs on that comment, right?
Don't try and turn the tide, guys.
I'm reading some too. Go, oh, they really, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, and then your mums will jump on this. Oh, but they look lovely in their shirt.
Just leave it be.
Cheers, guys. Love your work, and thanks for sharing your journey.
Hey, you too,
it's been awesome.
Appreciate it.